Good evening and welcome to the Strand. I'm Christina Foxley, the Director of Events, and I'm so pleased to welcome Stephen Kasher, Danny Fields, Anton Perich, Lorraine, Lenny, Kaye, and Stephen Watson here tonight to talk about Max's Kansas City, art, glamour, rock and roll. From revolutions in contemporary art and high fashion to the emergence in punk rock and the dawn of new wave, Max's Kansas City was home to numerous cultural revolutions. The book, Max's Kansas City, Art, Glamour, Rock and Roll, is a lasting chronicle of a storied landmark, featuring an interview with legendary owner, art patron, and doorman, Mickey Ruskin, who gave the artist endless bar tabs and free food that fueled the most creative scene and exchange of ideas, making New York City the most dynamic place on earth in the 60s and 70s. Moderating the event tonight is Dr. Stephen Watson, a cultural historian who is particularly interested in the dynamics of the 20th century American avant-garde. He is an author, director, and has also organized 2 exhibitions at the National Portrait Gallery. Most recently, Stephen has contributed his expertise to Max's Kansas City, Art, Glamour, Rock and Roll. Following our discussion, the panel would be happy to take your questions. They will then sign copies of the book for you, which you can purchase downstairs on your way out of the store. Please join me in welcoming, perhaps in a moment, because we're going to fix the mic situation, Dr. Stephen Watson and all to the stage.
Hello. Yep. Okay. So, welcome. You all know how important Max's Kansas City is, or you wouldn't be here tonight. And we only have about a half an hour to 45 minutes of talking, so I'm going to do some very quick introductions and a little background, and then we'll let it rip. So this is Lorraine O'Grady, an artist and writer. She was most recently in the Whitney Biennial, and at the time of Max's, she was a writer for the Village Voice and Rolling Stone. Next is Steve Kasher, who has been intimately involved with photographs for years and years, both as a curator, as a writer, as a gallery dealer, and he is really the one that is primarily responsible for putting together this book tonight. And his show, the show is currently up at the Steve Kasher Gallery. Now we have 2 people, Danny Fields and Lenny, Kaye, who are involved with the music world and were very much involved with the music world at the time of Max's. Lenny is a musician, a writer, has worked with Patti Smith's band as a guitarist for forever, and record producer, etc. Danny Fields was very much a part of the back room at Max's and was very closely involved with the music production recording world. He's also written about music and knows the scene. And finally, Anton Perich, who you might think of as kind of the house photographer at Max's. And a huge number of his photographs are in the book and also in the exhibition. And a less known fact is that he once worked as a busboy at Max's, and that's how he began. Now, I'm going to begin with the man behind this, which was Mickey Ruskin, who started out, grew up in New Jersey, thought he would go into law, found that really boring, and kind of had an epiphany in around 1960 to become a restaurateur, beginning with the 10th Street Cafe, a coffee house, moving on to several others, which were focused a good deal on poets as well as artists. And Max's opened at the end of 1965, very early 66, and continued for about 8 years. So I'd like to throw this to Anton, and the rest of you can riff off this. But I'd like you to talk something about what was Mickey's personality like, and why do you think he ended up being the center of this place?
Well, I met Mickey when I came to Max's. I was born in Croatia, I lived in France and Paris 5 years. I was there in 1968, and then I came to New York, and the first place I went to was Max's, and I met everybody there, maybe like first night or something. And I kept coming back every night for a few years. One thing about Mickey I like to say, like I was working like a basketball there, I was one of the worst. I told him I don't know how to work, and he said he appreciated it. You know, so that's how Mickey responded to me. You know? And he let me take pictures every night. No cameras were allowed. It was not really cool having camera at the time. Like it's not like today. It was forbidden, but somehow he let me to do it, to shoot pictures, and I did. And he was a really wonderful man. And I think he was a great curator, because when I came to New York, I realized I saw these contemporary artworks. Everything was there: pop art, minimal art, conceptual art. Everything was there. So I thought he put together the best collection in New York. You could not see those things in museums at all. They were not in museums. Castelli Gallery had a few things, but Mickey had a very larger scope, and all the contemporary works were there, and it was so American to me, it was so new that I fell in love with the place.
Danny, do you want to add anything?
Oh, I should add that Anton is a great video artist and a pioneer and a regular contributor to that channel that was invented so everybody could bring something and they had to show it. And Anton was the first producer-director to be censored, to have the transmission interrupted during one of his significant pioneering work. So Anton moved on and then got turned off. I don't know, what was the agency? I just wanted to say that about Anton. I want to add that to Anton. You don't have to ask me another question to get me to say something more. What do you want to know? How I got there?
No.
It was my neighborhood bar.
I want you to comment on Mickey and his personality.
Mickey was the best kind of host there was. He knew there were corners and matrices and vortexes in the area he supervised, and he had an unspoken under-army of people to watch over it. So it never got out of hand. The factory of Andy Warhol never got out of hand until Andy was shot. That really got out of hand. But for many years they kept a lid on it. And Mickey trusted his assistants, his managers, and of course most of all, the person to whom this evening should be dedicated, besides Mickey, is Dorothy Dean, who sat at the door and just made sure that no one came in whom we did not want to see. That's it. She never said a word. She just sat there. She's 4'10", 102 pounds, and she sat there and made it the sanctuary that it was. And because Mickey trusted her to do that. Okay. So that's about it. Mickey trusted the people he trusted forever, and that was important.
I think that word sanctuary is really important in terms of Max's, that it was a very free space for people that were there.
It could be any sex, any color, any height, any beauty, any style. We had to have style, but you would have style. All you had to be was fabulous. I think I said that somewhere. All you had to be was fabulous.
Lenny, do you want to add anything to that?
If there's a way that you can think of a place as being a kind of locus of creative energy, I was lucky enough to be attracted to it like a moth to a flame. I was a college kid in New Jersey, into the Velvet Underground and Warhol and all the kind of exciting things I read about in the Village Voice. And when I came to New York, I wanted to see what this place was like, and I went there one evening for dinner and wound up upstairs not even knowing that there was a back room. It wasn't until Danny here, who was certainly a troublemaker of the first order, invited me down, and in a time when the music people started coming. Originally it was kind of art-oriented, and the music people would kind of stop by after maybe they played the scene or something. I was from the music quadrant of New York, and about the time I was getting into the city a little bit more as a social thing was when they started having music upstairs for the first time. And as a rock writer, I got to go when the Velvet Underground started playing there. And it still strikes me as with a great deal of wonder that for the majority of the summer of 1970, the Velvet Underground played up there for 5 nights a week, 2 sets, and for the second set, since there were about 25 people in the room, you danced to them, you danced to Sweet Jane and rock and roll and all these great songs, and it was kind of, it was as localized a scene as could be. And because I was a writer and because they started booking bands, national bands, very acoustic acts, it created a kind of musical scene there, which would be replicated another few years later when the management changed and there was a whole new era of music taking place there. It was 2 very distinct eras. The first, which was programmed by Sam Hood, was very kind of, your national touring bands who stopped over there for a great amount of time. A lot of acoustic bands, Leon Redbone. I saw Waylon Jennings up there for the first time. Everyone talks about it, but it was even amazing that night when Bob Marley and the Wailers, this new reggae group from Jamaica, opened up a guy from New Jersey, Bruce Springsteen, and the E Street Band, in a space that probably didn't hold more than 150 people comfortably. I know it became really special for me because that was the first extended engagement that I got to play with Patti Smith and our piano player Richard Soule, and over the holiday weekend of 1973 into 74, where we opened up Phil Oakes, and in a way that kind of begins my time as a musician on the New York scene. The only thing more amazing than that is that I'm still playing. But it was a great place to see music and to experience it, and then to go downstairs to the back room and hang out with the people who were making the music. Anybody who played upstairs would go downstairs. And
Not anybody.
well, all the people who you'd want to see from upstairs, including all the beautiful gals that were upstairs. It was a great little, very self-contained scene. You knew most people if you were there for once a week or twice a week or 4 times a week or 5 times a week. You would just get into the flow of it. I think what Danny said was that it was his local. Well, it was everybody's local. And that kind of energy in a very small, compressed space where a lot of different people come in from out of town, from in town, a lot of different musics, arts, video, literary, film, all of these things coalesced in a very small club, not too far from here, maybe 6